welcome to the Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
Today's Deep Dive is brought to you by MW One Stop's Music, Movies, and Sport. And just a quick note before we start. The information for this story comes from the internet. It may not be entirely accurate. Okay, so today we're looking at, well, a real cultural landmark. The 1973 Blaxploitation film, The Mack.
And crucially, it's soundtracked by the amazing Willie Hutch.
Exactly. We're going to unpack, the film's impact, the complex stuff it was dealing with, and why that music, well, why it still hits so hard today.
Yeah.
For you listening, think of this as your fast track, your essential guide to getting why this moment in film and music history is so significant.
Right, because The Mack, it really wasn't just another movie release. It landed like an event, And Willie Hutch's score wasn't just background noise. It was like the film's soul.
Yeah.
We're aiming to give you the core insights, the stuff you need to know about this whole fascinating package.
Okay, let's get into it then. The Mack, 1973. It arrives, and like you said, it's big. Stars Julien as Goldie. Richard Pryor has this incredible role.
Oh, Pryor's fantastic in it.
He really is. And it just tapped into something. Something raw about street life, about power, about how things actually worked in certain communities back then.
And what's really interesting is how the film, directed by Michael Campus,
right,
produced by Harvey Bernhard and Durson Rader,
right,
written by Robert J. Poole. It used those Blaxploitation tropes, the style, the attitude, but used them to dig into some pretty deep issues. It's set in Oakland, California, right? And the basic story is Goldie getting out of prison and wanting to be the #1 pimp.
But it wasn't straightforward, was it? Not just about climbing the ladder. You had these other forces at play.
Totally.
Like corrupt white cops, other pimps trying to muscle in, and then Goldie's own brother, played by Roger E. Mosley.
Yeah, the revolutionary brother. That adds a whole other dimension.
It really does. It makes the whole thing much more complex than maybe the posters suggested.
Exactly. And if you zoom out a bit, the Mack is kind of notable because it managed to blend that Blaxploitation flash. Right. The cool clothes, the cars.
The look.
Yeah, the whole aesthetic. It blended that with some sharp social commentary.
Right.
It wasn't afraid to look at things like capitalism, betrayal within the community itself, the constant grind of systemic racism, and just, survival.
Which brings us to how it portrays Goldie, the main character. Because it's not just a simple pimp bad guy situation.
No, not at all.
It's much more nuanced. He's presented almost as like a symbol of rebellion against the system, but also kind of a product of that system. A victim, maybe? Someone called him a tragedy dressed in mink.
Wow, tragedy dressed in mink. That really captures it, doesn't it?
It does, that mix of allure and deep down emptiness.
And this complexity, it sort of raises questions about how the film even got made.
Yeah.
Apparently the filming itself was pretty tense.
Yeah, I read that too. And there was pushback initially from Black Panther leaders like Huey Newton.
That's right. They were concerned, understandably, about glorifying the pimp lifestyle, the exploitation aspect.
Which is a totally valid concern, but then compromises were made, it seems. And you had the involvement of people like Frank Ward.
Right, the alleged Oakland crime figure.
Yeah. His involvement, providing money, access to real locations, real people as extras, that definitely added to that gritty, authentic feel, that street credibility.
No doubt.
Yeah.
So you've got this intense, authentic backdrop brewing, and then the job of scoring it. That falls to Willie Hutch.
Willie Hutch, already a legend at Motown by this point.
Oh, yeah?
Writing massive hits like I'll Be There for the Jackson 5, plus his own solo stuff was taking off. But the Mack, this feels like it gave him a different kind of space, a chance to really blend the music with social comment, with raw emotion on a bigger scale.
And what's amazing is how perfectly he seemed to get it.
Yeah.
He understood Goldie's contradictions, that duality you mentioned.
Yeah.
So the score isn't just one thing. It's incredibly funky, yes, but it's also got this deep, mournful quality at times. It can be romantic, surprisingly, but then also really hard edge when it needs to be.
You hear those signature sounds, the wah-wah guitar.
Oh, the wah-wah is crucial.
The big orchestral swells, those grooves you just can't shake.
That a whole sonic world.
Absolutely. And like you said earlier, the soundtrack wasn't just sitting in the background. It felt like it was narrating, commenting, pushing the story forward. Some say it actually outlasted the film in terms of its pure impact.
I think that's fair to say. Its influence is undeniable.
Yep.
And maybe we should dig into some specific tracks, like Brother's Gonna Work It Out.
Oh, yeah. That track, it feels like the film's conscience, almost.
Right. It captures all those moral gray areas we were talking about.
It's got this, like, revolutionary urgency wrapped up in a soul groove. You've got the strings, the horns kicking in, but also those gospel harmonies grounding it. It's powerful stuff.
It really is.
And the fact that people like Public Enemy sampled or quoted it later, that just shows how deep it went, how it became part of the DNA of political hip-hop.
Totally. Then there's the main theme, the theme of the Mack.
Ah, okay. Pure swagger.
Isn't it just smooth, a little bit dangerous, but ultimately triumphant? That instrumental just is the film's attitude.
You hear it, you instantly know the vibe. And hip-hop ran with that one too, didn't they?
Oh, massively. Too Short, Ghetto Boys, so many others built tracks around that groove. It's foundational.
Definitely.
But then Hutch flips the script with I Choose You.
Such a beautiful track. Shows his range.
Absolutely. It's this incredibly lush, romantic soul ballad. Almost unexpected, maybe, given the film's grit.
Yeah.
But those strings, his vocal, it creates this moment of tenderness right in the middle of all the chaos.
A love song surviving the storm, kind of.
Exactly.
And it got that huge second life, which is amazing, being sampled by UGK and OutKast for International Players Anthem.
Yeah. Which brought Willie Hutch to a whole new generation. Fantastic.
Incredible.
And we shouldn't forget other tracks, like Slick or Mack's Stroll the Getaway. Now that it's all over, they all add these different emotional colors, the tension, the heartbreak, the brief moments of feeling on top.
Right, they complete the picture. So the film itself, the initial reviews were kind of mixed.
Yeah, not universal praise right out of the gate.
But it found its audience fast. Became a real cult favorite, especially within the Black community. People connected with those themes: power, survival, finding dignity.
They really did.
Yeah.
But the soundtrack, that was pretty much acclaimed from the start.
Right.
It cemented Willie Hutch's status, put him right up there with the giants of the era, like Curtis Mayfield doing Superfly, Isaac Hayes doing Shaft.
Absolutely. Titans of the soundtrack game.
For sure.
And the sampling. We mentioned a few, but the list just goes on and on, doesn't it?
Yeah.
OutKast, UGK, Big KRIT, The Game, Tupac, Jay-Z.
It's staggering.
It really speaks volumes about how potent those sounds are, how timeless. It's like a bridge, from 70s soul straight into modern hip-hop.
Exactly. And often, those samples aren't just hooks. They carry the weight, the feeling of the original track into the new one. It keeps the Mack's spirit alive.
It's amazing, really. Here we are, almost 50 years later, and the Mack is still referenced. You see its fingerprints everywhere.
Whereabouts?
Well, in fashion, definitely. Music videos borrow the aesthetic, hip-hop artists adopt some of that persona, and just in urban storytelling, generally.
And Goldie himself, the character, he's become sort of an archetype, right?
Yeah, the charismatic hustler figure.
Mm-hmm. And the soundtrack, as you said, it really laid down a blueprint for how soul music could score a film with that much depth and feeling.
Willie Hutch kept working, of course. He scored Foxy Brown 2, another classic.
Right.
And kept making music until he passed away in 2005. But the Mack, it just feels like his defining statement, his magnum opus.
I think that's right. That perfect fusion of message, melody, rhythm, it all came together there. So if we're wrapping this up, the Mack stands as this really significant film, managing to be both classic blaxploitation and sharp social commentary.
Right.
And Willie Hutch's soundtrack is just, a masterpiece of soul and funk that's still echoing today.
It gave you this look inside a community dealing with really tough, complex issues. And Hutch's music, it voiced that whole experience with such style and depth.
Elegance, even.
Yeah, elegance is a good word for it.
So maybe a final thought for you listening. Just think about how powerful that connection between music and film can be, how it reflects culture, but also shapes how we understand it.
Good point.
Maybe check out some other blaxploitation soundtracks, or just dive deeper into Willie Hutch's own catalog. There's a lot more great stuff to discover at that intersection of sound and society.